In 1753, a free black man stood transfixed before a borrowed pocket watch in colonial Maryland. For hours, he studied every tick, every gear, every movement. Others saw a simple timepiece, but Benjamin Banneker saw the universe in motion. What happened next would defy every expectation of his time, and challenge both the stars and society itself. Born in 1731 to free parents in Baltimore County, Maryland, Banneker's story begins with an extraordinary act of love. His grandmother, Molly Walsh, was a freed English indentured servant who did the unthinkable in colonial America. She married an enslaved African man named Banneker, who took her surname as Banneker. They built a life together as free people, passing down a legacy of dignity and determination to their grandson, Benjamin. In a time when most enslaved people were denied even basic literacy, young Benjamin attended a small Quaker school briefly. But it was what he did with that minimal education that would astound the world. Working on his family's tobacco farm, Banneker's mind constantly wandered to bigger questions. While others saw only crops and soil, he saw patterns, mathematics, and the clockwork of nature itself. At night, while others slept, he studied the stars, teaching himself the movements of the heavens with an intensity that would later shake the foundations of American science. Let's pause for a moment and think about that. A self-taught black man in colonial America, daring to understand the cosmos when society barely reckoned. But Banneker's path was far from easy. In an era when enslaved Africans were considered intellectually inferior and denied education, his very existence as an educated free black man was radical. Every book he sought to borrow was a risk. Every calculation he made could be scrutinized or dismissed. The simple act of walking to a neighbor's house with scientific questions could end in violence. Yet Banneker persisted. When he encountered that pocket watch in 1753, he didn't just see a timepiece. He saw a challenge. Over the course of 2 years, he meticulously carved each wooden cog and gear, measuring every angle, calculating every ratio. Working largely from memory of the borrowed watch, he created something unprecedented. A fully functional wooden clock that would keep perfect time for decades. Think about the dedication this required. The countless hours of trial and error. The precision needed to carve each piece by hand. All while managing a farm and navigating the dangerous waters of being a free black man in a slave society. But the clock was just the beginning. Banneker's greatest challenges lay ahead, as he would dare to master astronomy, mathematics, and surveying in ways that would force even Thomas Jefferson to confront his own prejudices. Banneker's wooden clock was just the first demonstration of his genius. As he entered his 50s, he began to study astronomy in earnest, borrowing books and instruments from his neighbor, George Elliott. What happened next was extraordinary. This self-taught farmer began calculating ephemerides, tables predicting astronomical events. With remarkable precision, he accurately predicted solar and lunar eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and tidal patterns. In 1791, he published his first almanac, a comprehensive guide containing weather predictions, astronomical data, and literary contributions. This wasn't just any almanac. It was the first published by an African American, but perhaps his most visible achievement came when he was appointed to the survey team, laying out the new capital city of Washington, D.C. Major Andrew Ellicott chose Banneker as his scientific assistant, trusting his mathematical precision and astronomical knowledge. When the lead French surveyor suddenly quit, taking the plans with him, it was Banneker who reconstructed the entire base map from memory, saving the project from disaster. During this same period, he took an even bolder step, writing to Thomas Jefferson himself. In a powerful letter, Banneker included his almanac and challenged Jefferson's views on racial equality. Using Jefferson's own words from the Declaration of Independence to argue against slavery, Jefferson's reply, while cordial, revealed the limitations of even the most enlightened thinking of the time. But Banneker wasn't seeking approval. He was demanding recognition of undeniable truth, both scientific and moral. Despite his achievements, Banneker's story began to fade, even before his death in 1806. The same racial prejudices he fought against worked to diminish his legacy. His original manuscripts and most of his possessions were destroyed in a suspicious fire on the day of his funeral. Some questioned whether a black man could have achieved such scientific feats, suggesting without evidence that whites must have done the work for him. His almanacs, while groundbreaking, faced distribution challenges in a segregated America. The wooden clock, which had kept perfect time for decades, was lost to history. Even his role in surveying Washington, D.C. was minimized or erased in many historical accounts. The man who had mapped the stars and challenged a founding father was being written out of history. The same society that had marveled at his achievements now seemed determined to forget them. His story became a whisper, a footnote, when it should have been a chapter title in American scientific history. But truth, like the stars Banneker so carefully studied, has a way of breaking through the darkness. Today, his legacy is being rediscovered and celebrated. Schools, museums, and scholarships bear his name. His astronomical calculations, preserved in his almanacs, have been proven accurate by modern computers. His letter to Jefferson stands as one of the earliest and most eloquent arguments for racial equality in American history. But perhaps his greatest legacy lies in what he proved possible. In an era when enslaved people were legally forbidden from learning to read, Banneker mastered astronomy, mathematics, and engineering. He showed that genius knows no racial bounds, that the human mind cannot be chained by prejudice. His wooden clock, though lost to time, represents something profound. That, with determination and intelligence, the most complex systems can be understood and recreated, even by those society deems incapable. As we look at the racial barriers that still exist in science and education today, Banneker's story reminds us that progress often begins with one person daring to look up at the stars and say, "I can understand this too." His life poses a question that still resonates. How many other brilliant minds have we lost to prejudice and discrimination? What other Bannekers might be out there today, waiting for their chance to map the stars? If you've been moved by this forgotten genius's story, make sure to follow us for more hidden histories that challenge everything you thought you knew about innovation and progress. And leave a comment below. What modern barriers do you think Banneker would be challenging if he were alive today?